So here we are at episode 19, 18 or 19, I believe, of the KTS Reviews Creative Corner. Joining us today, all the way from the UK, is Ahmed Khalifa. Ahmed, thanks so much for calling in.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah, all the way from UK. Yes, Scotland. That's where I'm right now. So it's a bit far away, but technology means that we can connect, which is great.
Technology is a beautiful thing. Like, you can't really see this right now, listeners, but I have my computer and my microphone. Ahmed's got his microphone, his setup, and we're calling in on Zoom, and this is a beautiful thing. It's great.
Yep, that's it.
So, information about Ahmed Khalifa. He's a successful businessman and deaf activist in Scotland of the UK. While he had progressive hearing loss growing up, he actually was mainstreamed and often struggled with trying to fit into the hearing world. Today, Ahmed works to educate businesses and individuals on the importance of accessibility and deaf awareness. One of the main ways he does this is through his website, hearmeoutcc.com. Over there, he posts educational videos, blog posts, and podcasts about his own life experiences, along with those of others in the deaf community. He also offers deaf awareness trainings to provide companies with personalized, tailored instructions that are fit to their specific needs. So we're really excited to have him here. I'm grateful that he could be a part of this. And
I'm excited as well. I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. Let's do it.
I'm excited. This is gonna be a fun one, guys. Like, you gotta listen to all of them, but this is going to be fun. So just to start off, can you tell our listeners just a little bit about your story?
It's a complicated one because, as you say, it's like you...
It's always hard to fit in, like a...
Yeah, it's the whole... If you try to fit in, isn't it? It's about fitting in a certain word. And that's the thing. I am clinically deaf, but I grew up mainstream. I really mainly operate in the hearing word because I'm not profoundly deaf and I don't speak sign language. I don't even know a lot of sign language. I'm learning sign language. So it's a complicated one because you think that you're deaf, you're part of a deaf community, but I'm actually more of a hearing side and a hearing word and things, but I'm not a hearing guy. So it's just such a funny one. So that kind of got to me recently when for a few decades, you go to school, you do all the job stuff, and you face barriers and challenges, but you have to get through it. We all have to go through the challenges. So eventually I just thought, you know what, I need to be more open about it. I need to talk about this more often and also connect with more people, share stories and help other people. And that's why I started Hearing Me Out CC. It's because I wanted to be more open about it. And it's something about being open and vulnerable about who you are as a person. It allows you to connect with other people. So with that website, I just got confident with making podcasts and videos, and I'm lucky that my background is based on the internet. My job, my previous jobs and my other business is based around websites. So I'm using that to my advantage. I know how to do these things, and I've done content, loads of them in the past. So I'm using that to my advantage. So it's a case of like, right, what do you have? What advantage do you have? How can you combine it together? And then Hearing Me Out CC came out, and thankfully, I'm still doing it. I absolutely love creating content on there. And so far, people are loving what I'm creating. So I love it. I love what I'm doing.
It's awesome. No, it's great. Like, just a quick backstory, kind of how I came across it. As our listeners know me, I love to write stories. Recently I had an idea for a story with a deaf protagonist, which is really humbling because I'll be the first to admit I don't know a lot about deafness, the deaf community. So while doing online research, I came across Hear Me Out CC. I'm sure people have had this reaction like, wow, it's cool, a deaf podcaster. I never thought about having that kind of thing be accessible. So for you, what were some things that you noticed with starting a podcast about deafness and being deaf yourself? What were those?
It's funny, isn't it? I know people think,
I was like,
how
like
do
a deaf
you
podcaster? What kind of reaction does that
generate? What is that about? How do you create an audio content but you're deaf? And then what about other deaf people? How are they going to listen to it because they're deaf? And it's like, oh my God. So it's just it is a weird one because I did think about it at first, but then I realized, there are ways to make it accessible. There are ways to target, well, not just target everyone, but in terms of like making sure that everyone can access the content. And okay, if you can hear, then you have the audio version. If you can't hear I've got transcript, and I put that on the page as well. And I think for some people, they might not be deaf, but maybe they prefer to read it. Maybe they just want to quickly scan the content. Some people like that. Some people just don't like, for example, maybe they don't like to watch a video, but they like to watch or read a version in text format instead. Everyone has their own preference. So I gave the option of there's an audio version and there's a text version. And that works for everyone. And I think I've heard that people were saying that, it's just amazing how you can make a podcast about deafness that even deaf people can even access it as well. So you can do it. I think there's always a way to make content accessible. I think wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And I know we talked about transcript a few times by email, and I know you're trying to get into it as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like that's definitely something that I didn't think about. Here we are, I've been at this podcast for like since May, I think, about halfway through the year. And I started realizing like, I don't really use transcripts. I never thought about captioning before. So that's something that I've benefited from Hear Me Out CC. I actually did start taking captioning and transcripts more seriously. But playing off of that, with accessibility, what are some accessibility things you think hearing people kind of forget about sometimes?
It's exactly what you said. People don't think about, maybe we should have captions. Maybe we should have transcript. And I'm not criticizing anyone for doing that. I don't blame people for forgetting. It's part of a learning process. You become open-minded and you learn about things from other people. That's how it works. So for you, you didn't think about it, but that's okay. You learned about it. And then gradually you get yourself into it. And it's a very common thing I hear all the time. People just don't think about, if you're going to have captions, but then they need to be accurate. Because I'm sure you've seen on YouTube that the auto captions are terrible. I'm not sure if you ever read them or seen it, but most of the time they're awful. And if you have something like that, you are preventing a lot of people from accessing the video. And I'm not just talking about deaf people. Maybe that person, for example, doesn't was not able to view it. Maybe they have some kind of learning disability. Maybe that person is not even speaking that language, but it's easier for that person to read instead of listen that language that they're learning. Maybe that person has some kind of attention deficit disorder that they're not able to focus intensely on a video, but it's easier to read. These little things people don't really think about, and I've been talking about that more. I just last week I've done a public speaking gig at a conference, and I'm talking about that. And it's like what you said. It's like, maybe you should think about caption, but not just auto caption. You do it properly. You have to actually edit it. So if you upload video on YouTube, then YouTube will give you the auto, but then you have to edit that manually, because I can guarantee you that there will be mistakes if you're dependent on auto caption. So, that is exactly what you said. And I don't blame you for thinking like that, but most of the time, hearing people don't think about caption and transcript because they don't need it. And that's fine. But what I say to them is, okay, if you have podcasting videos and you're getting people accessing them, that's fine. But then you have the chance to attract more people because they'll be able to access your content in another way. So it's a win-win for everyone. You can get bigger audience, and those people can access your content. So everybody wins at the end of the day.
For sure. And just speaking from my experiences, what I learned is, when I first tried to do transcripts, it felt really overwhelming because it was me trying to like type up everything that came out. But it's really, it really doesn't have to be that hard. Like there are programs, we talked about using the auto captions on YouTube and then just going back to edit it. Like when you use those kinds of tools, it doesn't have to be super overwhelming. It really wasn't that hard. It can be a little time consuming, but I'd definitely say it's worth it. I'm like, me as a podcaster, I feel better knowing that more people can access certain episodes. And, I want to expand to have it be more accessible as a regular thing.
Great. Yeah. I think, and you will benefit from that and they will benefit from that. So it's not really, who would complain about that? It's like, no, I have more audience. Like, come on. It's like, you have more people coming to you because they love your stuff. Isn't that an amazing thing to have?
And I'm like,
But you're right. You're right. It's I think for a lot of people it will be overwhelming because it will be time consuming at the beginning. But once you get used to it, once you get better, it will be quicker. And then you never know in the long term if you have the budget for it, you can then just outsource it to someone else who can do it for you. So I started like that. I started doing it manually by myself, and then gradually I decided I'm going to pass it on to someone else. So you just never know if you keep doing it. You never know, you can just pass it on to someone else.
For sure, yeah. And like the first episode I transcribed, it took I think 3 weeks to do it because I was so new to it and it just felt so overwhelming. The second one just took a couple of hours, so you can get used to it. It's not
bad. That's not bad.
It's not a big deal. Like, it's not super hard. Like, but backtracking a little bit, I know you guys talk about not feeling like you didn't grow up deaf, but having hearing loss and being deaf. What are some things that you've struggled with, kind of being in the deaf world and the hearing world, so to say?
The big one for me is just your identity. You don't know where you belong. And I think as humans, as animals, you just want to feel like you belong in a community or a group. But I'm actually in the middle. It's an awkward position to be in. And many people are like that. They can be in a bit of both sides. And it's a weird position to be in because nobody will understand, not the hearing word or the deaf word. So it's an awkward one. So sometimes I try to make the most of it by saying, for example, the benefit that I have is I have access to both words. So I can understand both sides of the party, if you like, and know how things work. And I can communicate with both sides as well if I want to. So with that, you get knowledge about different things, which is great. But at the same time, if you want to be part of a community, it's a bit tricky to do that because you're not really I'm not part of deaf community. I wouldn't say that because I don't speak sign language and I'm not profoundly deaf. Whereas most people in deaf community, not all, most, they will be profoundly deaf and they speak in sign language. But at the same time, hearing word, no, that's a different story. I'm not there. I struggle. I was at a social event last week during a conference, but I couldn't stay late because it was a noisy environment and I can't really communicate with people because it's too noisy and it's hard to focus. These are the challenges and the barriers you have to face really when you're stuck in that middle between a rock and a hard place. But you have to accept it, and eventually when you come to accept it, then you feel a bit better about yourself, you feel a bit more comfortable about yourself, because you can't just keep wishing and hoping and waiting and thinking, I wish. We all have certain things that I'm sure we wish we could change, but sometimes you can't change that. So if you accept it, you're more likely to be happy than you could keep wishing for something to change, because that's not going to happen. So it took me a long time. I'm not saying you should do it overnight, accept it, but once I did accept being in that middle bit and started hearing me out CC and doing all these things, then the world opened up a bit more for me and it became more interesting.
That's definitely something I think a lot of people can relate to, just being in that middle ground, that kind of a middle spot. For you, how were you able to just finally say, okay, this is who I am, I accept it, and I'm ready to embrace kind of whatever comes my way? Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
One of the things I did was to just learn about yourself. And what I mean by that is just trying to find out what do you enjoy, what do you not enjoy, what can you learn from both sides, what you can't learn, and expose yourself as much as possible, because then once you get some knowledge about different things, then you understand, first of all, I'm not the only one in this situation. So I'm not really, really alone. There are other people out there, it just maybe it's hard to find, but you're not the only person doing that. And then the other thing I did is that I just sort of, as I said to you earlier, I've got the advantage of knowing how to put together a website and do things online and, do the stuff that you need to do on the internet. I've got that to my advantage. So I just thought to myself, okay, what is my main skill and how can I use that? And how can I use that to my benefit and also to help other people? And gradually, when I started doing videos and then you started connecting people, then you realize You're not the only one who's doing this. You're not the only one who is struggling to fit somewhere. And I'm not talking about deaf. I'm just talking about anybody. Everyone has their own struggles in society. So once I started very slowly, I did a video out there, I did a podcast, I started writing, and it's almost like therapy when you do that. It's almost like therapy. You say, you like to write stories, and I'm sure writing stories can be quite therapeutic sometimes. And for me, it's the same. It's like when I create the content, it's like, get let it out, get it out there. And then it's like, and then when people access it and then they comment on it and then they engage with it, then that's exciting. That's like, wow, people actually like what I've said. So it's a very trickle, small bit by bit. It works very well.
Awesome. Let's hear a little bit about that. What's some feedback you've had since starting Hear Me Out CC?
Oh, it's been overwhelming. I mean, I think there are other, deaf YouTubers and deaf bloggers and all these things. There are, many out there, but sometimes, certain people might prefer certain personalities. Just because they are popular doesn't mean that every single person around the world will prefer to connect with that person. You just never know. Maybe they like your personality, or maybe they can relate to you more, for whatever reason. So it's amazing that the messages that I get, whether it's a comment on YouTube or whether it's a Twitter DM or Instagram DM or anything like that, and you get people saying, your video has helped me a lot because it made me realize that I'm not alone, and it also made me laugh because sometimes you just have to act silly. Sometimes you just be silly on video. It's okay, and it made them laugh as well. And I've done some crazy videos. I've done a video. One example would be 12 Days of Christmas, but I made it like a deaf parody. So I made it in a way that things that people have said to me, and I changed the words, I changed the lyrics, and people were like saying that's brilliant, that's just hilarious. And it's just a silly video with me and my guitar. Just get it out there, sometimes you just get it out there. And that is what really made me happy, is that people really enjoyed it. But most importantly, they found it very helpful. They found it very helpful that they can feel better that there is someone out there who is like me, and I can just watch his video and enjoy it as well. So it's a very nice feeling to hear that and to see that as well.
I'm glad to hear that. I want to look that one up. Sounds good. Yeah.
Well, everyone can do it
from a deaf perspective.
It's not something that came quickly, and it's a long process. I mean, I'm sure yourself, when you have a podcast and a website and all these things, it's a lot of work. People don't see what goes on behind the scene. And sometimes you think, you know what, I can't be bothered doing it today. But sometimes you have to continue. You keep going. And, sometimes that consistency and being there will make people realize, what, that person's not going away. That person actually has something. And then gradually you will get better and better and better. Because if you don't continue, then you will never get better.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. And then gradually you might get a better camera, and then maybe you get a better microphone, and then you maybe, it's a journey. So you have to enjoy the journey. That's very, very important.
You gotta accept that it's not gonna happen. Like you said earlier, it doesn't happen overnight.
Exactly.
Changing yourself doesn't happen. Getting where you want to be, none of that really happens overnight. No, I love that.
Yeah.
We're about at the time where I need to start wrapping up. So a couple of final questions. First one. Well, this one's kind of a dual question. What's something you wish hearing people understood about deaf people, and something you wish deaf people understood about hearing people?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Good question. Right. Okay. Oh, well, here's the thing, because I did do a video about things I wish my hearing friends and people know, because there are so many things. There are so many things that, people have the assumption about what deaf people are like. So an example would be for some reason, they think that deaf people can't drive. And I get that. Exactly. You think, but we can see. it's crazy some of the comments that I get, like, oh, you can drive. I've had a crazy comment. Someone said to me, do you need braille? I'm like, no, I don't need braille. Braille is for blind people. So there's a lot. There's too many things I can answer that about what you wish hearing people will know. But maybe the general one that maybe just tick all the boxes would be that we're human. So, we can drive, we can walk, we like to be independent, we like to go out, we like to socialize and interact. We're human. I mean, that's the general thing that I want hearing people to know. And a lot of them, of course, they would know that. But some of the comments that I get is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I can go on forever about these comments. So the other side, what do I wish deaf people know about the hearing word is that I think sometimes there are certain people, they maybe are too forceful by asking hearing people to do something to help them to do their job or to be able to access content. An example would be, for example, I have seen how deaf people are being very aggressive about someone who didn't caption the videos. So I'm like, okay, I get it. I get very frustrated as well. But sometimes I have to think carefully and say that, did that person know? Did that person is aware of that thing? Does that person know how to do it? Does that person even want to do it, first of all? Do we know whether they want to do it or not? Because sometimes I feel like maybe not all, I have to be careful to say not all deaf people are like this, but there are a minority that think that they have to be a bit aggressive and say, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. And I don't agree with that. I think from both sides, it's education. We have to learn from each other. We can learn from them and they can learn from us, definitely. And that's why when I talk about, for example, auto captions, I hate it. It annoys me. It gets me frustrated. And it's a joke. But sometimes I like to use humor to highlight that. And I show examples of terrible captions. They laugh out about it. And then I say, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? But the thing is, here's the problem, is that we don't find it funny because we can't really follow that video.
Yeah.
So it's just a case of like education on both sides. I think it's very, very important, and have patience for each other, because I know that a lot of cases, not everyone want to make the other person feel bad. It's not about attacking each other at all. It's just about helping each other, and hopefully we'll get there. But of course, not everyone will be so welcoming or so open to the idea. We just have to move on. If that person doesn't want to do what you want them to do, then we have to move on. So
yeah,
I think that kind of answers.
Find people that are willing to work with you instead of focusing on the ones that don't, so to say. There
will be plenty of people like that.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last question, we've been talking about this off and on for the whole show, but what are some final words of advice that you'd give to people that maybe want to start something kind of like Hear Me Out CC, or just get into blogging, podcasting, like your line of work? What advice would you give?
Here's the most probably cliche answer, because everyone will say the same thing. Just start. Just start. The reason I say that is because people always wait for the perfect time and moment. And I think if I tell you when the perfect time, now is the perfect time. Because if you wait for that perfection, it will never happen. Because you will never, first of all, there's no such thing as perfect. That will never happen. Even professional, I don't think they will ever get it perfect. But the thing is, if you want to get to as close to perfection as possible, the only way you can do that is to start and to learn and to practice and to experiment and to be consistent. And the only way you can do that is if you start today, and you have to do that. Because if you don't start and you just wait and wait and wait, then nobody's going to win. You're not going to get anywhere. And you will never learn how to, for example, blog. Because people need to understand that, and I'm going to guarantee you right now, your first ever blog or podcast or video will be terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure you agree with me on this, but yeah. You just have to look back. I mean, you've got that backlog of content now. You can look back at your first one, And I'm sure you're thinking back and thinking, "Ooh, it's cringy," you know. It's like, "Oh God, I can't believe I've done that." But that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay. It's like the first time you do anything will be terrible. But then if you keep at it, you keep going, you will get better and better and better. And then you look back at your first ever content and you say like, oh God, I'm so bad. But then you be proud of yourself and say, look how far I've gotten.
Yeah.
So that's why I say you have to start. Just start. Do not wait for the perfect moment. There's no perfect moment. Just start now.
Start now, run with it, and just
Yep.
kind of use it to learn along the way. And
Learn along the way. Exactly. That's the best way to do it. You learn along the way only by doing, not by sitting and waiting.
for sure, like, and things work out from there. It's funny that just when you said that, I was thinking about the first podcast interview I did, which was all recorded on my phone.
We've all done it.
Yeah, it was like yeah, the quality is super low, and I was laughing too loud, and it sounded so pitchy.
But then if you keep doing, imagine if you do another 100 episodes, and you know, you'll be so much better, and you're going to be thinking back like, I can't believe what is wrong with me. Why am I doing this? Like, stop it, be quiet. So it will continue to happen. I'm sure we're going to look back. Even me, I'm going to look back this very interview that we're doing right now. I'm sure if we look back after a year or two, whatever, both of us will be thinking, oh man, what happened there? But because we got better and better and better, we learned along the way.
And kind of learn, grow, and keep moving on with it.
You got it. Yeah, you got to do it. Come on, people.
Just
Let's go. Let's start. Exactly. Do it.
Man. Okay, so this is gonna wrap it up for our episode today. Ahmed, thanks so much again for calling in. This was really fun. This was a good one.
No problem at all. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for asking me, and I hope people have learned a lot from it.
Yeah, so for our listeners, we'll leave links in the show notes, but be sure to head out over to hearmeoutcc.com, watch some of Ahmed's videos. You'll learn a lot, and it is really entertaining, actually. Like, even as a hearing person, I love going over there. It's fun. All right.
Thank you.
So, this has been the end. This has been fun. You got your reviews, and you've been inspired, so start being creative.